evening, everybody, and welcome to Beard Blather 169. I don't want to say anything. This is the second time we go through 69. Maybe the third is a charm, and we'll get somebody to join us on screen. Today's subject, things that don't work, and some that do. This is Saul Montes-Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from my golden cage in Florida. And with me, right there, the guy with the beanie and the beard, is Thomas Wictor, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers from Californication, suffering the depredations of Gavin Gruesome and his merry band of sociotards. How are you doing, Thomas?
Good. Yesterday I bought a brand new iMac computer, so I have had a lot of trouble. I migrated the old computer to the new one. The old one, I don't even know what year it was, but it was starting to beach ball, like it beach ball for half an hour at every step. So it was like, okay. And after I migrated it, then I had an external hard drive that didn't work on the new one. So I had stuff on there that was only on the hard drive, and my brother finally jury-rigged a way to copy it, and it copied everything that was wrong with the old Mac into the new files. And so what I have to do is I have to open the new hard drive, external hard drive, and let it run for as long as it can before it starts beach balling. Then I have to force quit it and eject it, start all over. And with that, I'm working my way through all the files. And I found out that Canon scanners no longer make scanners for Mac. So what I'm going to have to do, what I've already done is I've bought a refurbished old Mac, and that's going to be my picture station where I'm going to scan and work on, fix old stuff. Then when it's ready, I'll transfer it by thumb drive to my new one. But I read about people doing this years ago. They're photographers and visual artists still using 2008 Macs. Because every new iteration gets worse and worse and worse. And I tried getting new scanner software for my great Canon scanner that cost an arm and a leg at the time. And it's going to take too long to figure out how to use it and everything. So I'm going for it, and I'm setting up a separate station in a different part of the room where I can work on my photos. And
just your postcard scanning station.
Exactly. And
why not?
It's really sad that
and you don't have to relearn everything.
No, and also unfortunately, newer is not always better. Every time Mac updates, I got a brand new computer and it's already downloaded two updates. So they're updating. And each time they update, it gets less user friendly. And I don't know. It's just, I don't get it. But hey, I'm at the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
They do that just to screw us up. But by the way, before we go further into this, remember 2 weeks ago, those idiots at YouBoob put a little sign explaining what our title meant. And of course, they did that with a quote from Wikipedia, for crying out freaking loud. These people aren't stupider because they don't wake up earlier to train. Then last week, they put us a copyright thingy because we used 30 seconds of a Monty Python tape, commenting over it as an illustration of a point we were making, which is fair use from here to Timbuktu, round trip. of course, I appealed. 30 days from now, they're going to remove it. But the whole thing is the reason why we are not doing this on YouTube anymore. Incidentally, for those of us who are watching the beginning of the show in YouTube, in less than 10 minutes, we're going bye bye because the platform sucks on wheels. And we started again on Twitter, just trying the waters there, see what happens. Eventually, we're going to turn our Twitter feed into a scheduled broadcast, but that one would be for subscriptions only. So enjoy it while it's free, folks. Uh,
Well, speaking of things that don't work, Ron DeSantis, I being, the son of a Mexican mother, I've been calling him DeSantis, but he calls himself
yeah,
DeSantis. It should be an I, but it's an E. And he announced his doomed run for the presidency on
yeah,
Twitter, and it was a technical fiasco. So,
yeah. At the beginning, there were all kinds of glitches, which of course people blame him as
no,
if he was in charge of the technology at Twitter.
no,
Um, but shit happens, and that's why we are sticking our toes in the water before we jump in. Uh,
well,
you know that this
we're not
the
doing something
DeSantis.
we're not doing something as consequential as announcing a run for president.
Well,
And
no, I happen to think that our show is far more consequential than his run.
well, I mean, it's it's sort of tragic in a way because it's a kind of hubris that I don't particularly like. Trump Trump tested the waters for how many years? How many times did he announce a potential run for president?
Well, he actually practically ran on 2012,
Right,
and within 2 weeks, he was out and endorsing Romney.
right.
Eh,
And
um,
prior to
Other
that,
times he never really jumped into the water. Well, one day if I see that there's nobody that can do the job, I might do it myself. He's been saying that since 1980.
yeah. There's a defunct talk show with some big name, Phyllis something or other. I can't remember. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that was in a kind of community TV station sponsored by cable news when cable started in New York. That's the one you're referring to. That was in 1980.
yeah, 81, and she was he was already saying that the system is so messed up that he may have to run himself, and you know so he's been preparing us for a long time. And the problem with DeSantis is that, I mean, like you and I said, I don't oppose him running for president,
Mm-mm.
but he can't really work outside of Florida. And I mean, he's one of these. Okay, so far he's ignored the mainstream media. You can't do that. That means that they're going to have the knives out for you like you wouldn't believe. And as we saw, they can do a hell of a lot of damage despite their greatly weakened state. And people really have it in for DeSantis for lies, the don't say gay law and book banning and, all of that stuff.
Yep. None of which ever happened. Let's be fair, but
See,
it's become part of the national lexicon by now.
that's the thing. And with Trump, it's this amorphous thing. Like we've been hearing the same. Oh, and Trump has been vindicated time and time again.
Yeah.
The Russia collusion. It was finally, they said, yeah, it was all fake. We shouldn't have done that.
Nah, it was Hillary kissing Putin's balls the whole time.
Well, And okay, there's a quote from George Scarborough, the guy with the horrendous
Joe.
glasses. Joe.
Joe Scarborough?
Yeah, he said that
The guy who got married to the shrewd daughter of Zbigniew Brzezinski?
Joe Scarborough said that
Yeah.
the Republican Party has been on an 8-year march towards fascism. I mean, this is just
Yeah.
and in the case
Says the fascist married to a fascist daughter of a fascist.
yeah, and in the case of DeSantis, they have very specific things. There's nothing specific when it comes. Have you noticed that nobody ever really mentions Trump's impeachments because they know that those two they backfired?
Oh, full of shit.
We know that there's going to be a trial possibly in the middle of all this, unless it gets tossed out by appeals courts.
Yep.
And the trial is another kangaroo court that is already.
And there is an indictment coming up at the very same time that the appeals court in Georgia is sent back to the judge. One of those cases that were dismissed for lack of standing. So all of a sudden, two different courts in Georgia are going to be trying Trump for claiming there was fraud, and the state of Georgia for committing fraud.
Isn't that
you cannot write this shit down.
Well, and see, Trump is able to handle all this stuff. He was remarkably successful despite fighting the strongest headwinds of any political figure possibly in human history. And I mean, he had everyone against him, from his own party to, the global media to,
yeah.
Even at this point, I watch people on YouTube, we're going to talk about the Ukraine war. I watch a lot of people who talk about the Ukraine war, and all of a sudden they're on this demented anti-Trump rant. And there's a brilliant guy named Vlad Vexler, who is a Russian who really has pinpointed what the issue is with Putin, and he calls Trump a totalitarian. And it's like, dude, you're crazy. Trump is a federalist. He's the opposite of a totalitarian.
I think I blocked somewhere around 40 people today.
What?
Because one was preaching Marxism to me.
I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
Holy crap. I had to block 50 people today. Seems to be my sport in Twitter. One was preaching Marxism to me because, I don't understand shit, but everything has to do with the added value that the workers never collect and all that bullshit. This comes right out of chapter 2 of Das Kapital. And the rest of them were telling me how Trump and DeSantis are the real fascists. And they were telling me how the fascists demand subservience to the state, which is kind of true. They do, but it doesn't apply to Trump or DeSantis, who are staunch individualists. And it's the thing that you and I have always said. They would be the first individual freedom champions for fascism. It doesn't make any sense, you idiots.
It's okay. If you go to any stupid history, to this day, all historians call fascism right wing, which it isn't.
Yeah.
It's a collectivist ideology. It is not right wing. That alone. But and then they say that nobody can quite define fascism. I can.
Yes, we can. Trotsky did.
It's a dictatorship. It's a centralized government. It's a centralized economy. It's characterized by fanatical nationalism, fanatical obsession with ethnicity and or race, and it's corporatist. So
absolutely, that is the defining characteristic.
Now,
because other systems may include some or all of the characteristics you defined, but corporativism or corporatism, both words are equally acceptable, is the defining characteristic of fascism. You know, like Obama. People who want to control the economy, not through expropriation, nationalization, no, through regulation.
Through regulation and through co-opting both the heads of corporations and the workers.
Yes. Kind of like the National Labor Board.
Of course. And in the case of Obama, he's the one who started bringing in race. And so by the end of it, it's today as we stand, the Democratic Party is textbook fascist because racism is one of the great pillars of this ideology, anti-white racism and unspoken racism against, basically the people who are just going to be the political cannon fodder.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been following the whole Target debacle, but somebody leaked the Zoom conference in which their diversity chief explained what Target was going to do. And the people pushing this are, for the most part, Black leftist women. And it's perfect.
With a very, very, very low IQ.
It's perfect because they're both women and they're non-white. So if you criticize them in any way, shape, or form, you're a racist and you're anti-woman. And this person was like a robot, the person pushing it, and was telling all these Target officials how great all of this was going to be for business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be wonderful. Instead of 10 billion loss in capitalization, they may achieve 20 and have the all-time record for 2 weeks.
Yeah. No,
that's how good it is for business. Yeah, you know what? The more they do, the better the business is for Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. No, and okay, now that we're getting into this, we should probably leave YouTube, huh?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, because we're going to show some videos too, and these imbeciles at YouBoob are definitely not something I want to deal with anymore. So, bye-bye, YouBoob.